Not very long ago, I planned on making a new video which would have returned to the subject of the Sonic statue in the mountains of Japan. I wanted to make a new video on that subject because a lot has happened since the original video that I made back in 2019, and it would have been nice to have the full story and all subsequent updates regarding that statue in one contained video. I still want to make that because I feel it would be a nice way to finally close this series. So around the first week into August, I'd started to write the script for that video as well as do a little bit of research for it, when on August 10th, 2020, the unexpected happened. The statue was repaired. At the time, only one photo showed the restored statue, and part of me did think, is this a hoax? Is this genuine? Is someone pulling one heck of a wind up? And then literally, seconds after I posted the video announcing its apparent repair, a second photo was discovered which showed the actual restoration, which pretty much removed any lingering doubts. Since then, several photos and even video has appeared which shows that yes, the statue has indeed been fully restored. It was a wonderful moment, and simply amazing that it actually got restored, especially given the madness that is 2020. But despite the jubilation and the incredible reaction that happened when it came to light that the statue had been repaired, several people, including myself, had a number of questions regarding the actual repair itself. How extensive were the repairs, and most importantly, who actually restored it? Well, about a day or two after I made that video announcing the statue's restoration, out of nowhere, I got a very unexpected message.
Hello, Dave-san. My name is Masahiro Kotera. I'm the son of Yuji Kotera. My father was the original owner of the Sonic statue.
Yes, that's right. The current owner of the statue got in touch with me, who happens to be the son of the late Mr. Kotera. Yes, the man who saved the statue in the first place. I was shocked at this. At no point had I ever reached out to the family or made any attempt to contact them because, well, frankly, it's not my place to do so, and I really didn't want to bug them about it, especially since it sounded like a lot of the local media around that area had attempted to track them down. So I was really quite surprised that they had not only tracked me down, but also reached out to talk to me about the statue. Masahiro Kotera, and I really hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, reached out to me via Twitter and instantly proved his identity by providing a number of photos of the statue being repaired. He also shared several details regarding its restoration, which until now have never been shared publicly anywhere. So let's take a look at some of these images now, and we'll talk about how extensive the statue's repair actually is, because a few people believed it was literally just a new coat of paint. Let's go over some of the images that Masahiro actually provided. So as we all saw when the statue was first brought to light, there was a lot of damage to it, most of it caused by exposure to the outside elements. Obvious examples were the arm, which had a huge crack in it, and the board itself was also literally rotting away. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert in how this damage was repaired, so I won't be making any wild guesses or assumptions as to what was done to fix the problems, but some of the images here give a pretty good example as to what was actually done. So if you have some idea or have some knowledge as to what's actually going on there, please enlighten me in the comments, put the details in there, because I am genuinely curious as to what was actually done. But as you can see in these photos, a mesh-like material was placed over the crack on the arm, and the same thing was actually applied to the board that Sonic stands on as well, and this was then covered in another material to apparently fix the damage. As for the actual paint restoration, you don't really need to be an expert to know that painting directly over old paint isn't usually a good idea for something like this. So before attempting the paint restoration, they first covered the statue in a white foundation. It's not completely painted white, you can see the original colouring through the foundation when you get close to it, but standing at a distance, the statue almost looks pure white. Whilst Masahiro didn't actually confirm it, it's possible that a few of these pictures are actually before and after a second coat coating of the foundation. After the foundation was applied, Sonic's new nose was attached to the statue. Unfortunately, I don't know how they did this. I just happened to notice it when I was going through the photos. Between the foundation being applied and the first new paint being added, there was Sonic's nose, ready and working again. And speaking of new paint being added, Sonic's iconic blue colouring was the first to be added to the statue, and then his arms and legs were given their correct colour. And if you can believe it, everything I've said so far was completed on the first day. According to Masahiro, the repairs and the first part of the paint was actually completed by the first day. This is really impressive considering Japan was experiencing a heat wave during the week it was repaired, and temperatures in that region were recorded as being as high as 40 degrees. By the end of the second day, the shoes and the board were also completed, which left a few finer details such as Sonic's eyes and his smile to be completed. As well as repairing damage to the statue itself, some of the original wooden supports were also reinforced with metal scaffolding, which eventually resulted in the final restored statue, that famous image which we all saw back at the start of August. Masahiro then told me that not including discussions with the restorer and the actual planning on how to actually restore the statue itself, the entire restoration only took 2 days. He also told me that there were actually discussions to remove the statue from its current location to the restorer's workshop. Unfortunately, this wasn't possible due to the size of the statue, its weakened state, and the fact it wouldn't be easy to take down from the side of the mountain and return it to its original spot. The decision was therefore made to repair it on location on the mountainside itself. So just think about that for a moment. On one of the hottest weeks of the year, the statue was not only repaired, but fully restored in just 2 days on the side of a mountain by a busy road. It took me 3 days to finish painting my garage roof. So a big thing that I know a lot of people commented on at the time was regarding the original decorations which were under the board itself. Back in the statue's prime, when it was actually in the arcade on display, you could clearly see decorations under the board itself, but when the statue had been rediscovered, they had all but faded away. Well, Masahiro also gave some information about these too. Unfortunately, the original designs and logos under the board just couldn't be saved, and since the bottom of the board had a number of permanent supports placed onto it after the designs were originally painted, the decision was made to just paint over them entirely instead of trying to take apart the supports, paint new designs, and then rebuild the support system completely. Which I completely understand and fully support. Considering all the effort made just to restore the statue so far, this is a very small compromise in the grand scheme of things. So my conversation with Masahiro brought up something else, something that a lot of people had suggested I myself do at the time of my original statue video way back at the start of 2019. Why not start a fundraiser to fix it? So I pitched this to Masahiro and his family, and I asked them, would you like me to help you start up a fundraiser, or were you thinking of starting one up? Both as a way to help cover costs, as well as a potential thank you for doing what they did, as well as potentially fix the statue in future should anything happen to it. And they said that they didn't want to do that. They didn't want to take or accept any money for doing the repair. That's exceptionally generous of them. They also talked about how they actually got the statue, and it turns out that Sega World Kodama, where the statue was originally, was closing down due to a new highway junction that was planned to be built, and they say that relations with them working with Sega at the time were great, but upon the closure of the arcade, Sega Sammy never contacted them regarding what to do with the statue and other internal decorations, so it was taken by Mr. Katera, and the rest you already know. We did talk a little more, and Masahiro and his family did have a few requests and things that they wanted everybody to be aware of, and asked me if I would relay this information on their behalf, which I'm going to do so now. The first request that they have is, since the statue has become something of a small attraction with tourists and bikers, please respect it. Please don't climb onto it or do anything that would put it at risk of damage. Another important thing that they asked is that if people do come to see it, please stay safe and be very careful. It turns out that the road that the statue is actually on is quite a busy road. There's lots of bikes travelling at high speed, and there's a number of heavy trucks that also frequent the area, and they also travel quite fast. A lot of people that they've seen who have visited the statue tend to stand in the middle of the road posing for photographs, and the last thing that they want is for someone to have an accident whilst visiting it. That said, they do welcome people who want to visit and take photos. Please stay safe and be aware of your surroundings. Also, please respect the property and the privacy of those who are living in the surrounding area. So with that, I thanked Masahiro and his family for all they had done, and said it had really captured the imagination of literally hundreds, if not thousands of people throughout the world. It really was a wonderful thing that his father had done, and also the restoration that he and his family had done to honour his father's memory. And that was pretty much the end of our conversation. So I want to briefly mention something else, because I know that someone will ask this in the comments. Why didn't Sega do anything to fix it? Okay, so I have to be very careful with what I say here. First of all, when the statue was actually first brought to light, it was very close to the start of the next financial year, meaning it would have been very hard for Sega to suddenly allocate funds or a budget to someone to actually get a team together and look into who owned the statue, let alone actually restoring it. Now that said, there were people who worked at Sega who were indeed looking into saving the statue, and at the 2019 Sonic Adventure Music Experience, I actually met with Sega community person Katie and asked her about it, and she told me that it was being brought up and people at Sega were definitely looking into it. There were just a few hurdles at the moment. And since then, I've spoken with a number of other people, and conversation has often turned to the statue. And again, they all tell me that the statue was being discussed within certain groups of people within Sega, and it was definitely being brought up in a few meetings. Now, whilst I personally know a lot more, I promise not to divulge too much information. Just know that it was something that people in Sega were passionate about, and several people did indeed want the company to look into it, and they were very much aware that fans wanted Sega to do something about it. I think the biggest problem that Sega had was when the statue became quite global knowledge, the owner was tracked down, which puts a major hurdle in the way. They have to contact them and then get their permission before they can actually even do anything about it, let alone the whole issue of allocating a budget for them to even start doing anything about it. And then of course 2020 happened and everything got put on hold. Anyway, the point is, Sega were indeed looking into it. So, since Mr. Katera's family, oh yes, by the way, their surname is Katera, not Kadera. It seems that Google Translate always gets their family name wrong. Masahiro actually corrected me on this. Since Mr. Katera's family did indeed restore the statue and took very good care of it, would it be too much to ask for Sega to put a small thank you to them in the next Sonic game? It doesn't have to be anything major. It doesn't have to be a big in-your-face dedicated to Mr. Katera and his family. Maybe if there's a Sonic stage set on a mountain, there's a small statue of Sonic by the roadside. Or maybe if there's a city stage, can one of the shops in the background be called Katera's Games? Well, anyway, I do think that Sega should do a small reference to the statue as a way of thank you to the Katera family in the next Sonic game. It would be a really lovely way to finally end this story, and a great way to give a small nod and a thank you to that family for repairing the statue and looking after it for as long as they have, and not to mention, they repaired it on their own accord. So guys, I think that's everything I can say on this one. I hope you've enjoyed this update to the Sonic statue story. So I do want to return to this story again in the future. I'd love to do one final video on the entire history of the statue and the efforts made to find the owners and the eventual repair of it. But there is just one problem. That video can only really finish one way, with myself going to see the statue, of course. Unfortunately, I can't go and see it right now. If you don't know why, just watch the news. And also the biggest hurdle, I just simply can't afford to go. So unless someone out there wants to pay for my plane ticket and accommodation, it could take a while for me to actually go and see it myself. But please, Let me know your thoughts on this one, and please flood the comments with thank yous to Mr. Katera's family and Masahiro for providing us with these incredible images showing the restoration process of the statue and the new information that he was kind enough to provide us. Thanks very much for watching, guys, and I'll see you again next time. Hey guys, if you liked the video, please don't forget to leave a like and click that subscribe and bell notification button, because by doing that we can share these incredible discoveries with more people. I'd just like to take this time to give a huge thank you to Masahiro Katera and his family, as well as extend a very special thank you to my good friend Hiromukai, who provided that extra bit of audio for this video. If you'd like to be part of making new discoveries like this, please consider supporting me on Patreon. Links to do so are in the video description, and a huge thank you to all these wonderful people who have already supported the channel and the work I do. And those people are Gotta Go Fast, Kenny Newbury, Mark Davis, Mayfa Stevenson, Mr. Retro Geek, Niemand, Paulie B from Da303, Rustic Coolpix, Stalin Usher 2, That Gamer, The Wax, Tybut Renux, and TVGN 2000. A huge thank you to you guys for all your support, and for the rest of you, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again next time. Goodbye.